And welcome, everyone, to Magic Insiders, presented by International Diamond Center. Dante Marchitelli, Jake Chapman here with you. Great to have you with us here on Magic Insiders, Orlando Magic YouTube channel. And for all of you listening in the car or wherever you listen to 96.9 The Game, thanks for tuning in on Magic Insiders as well. We have got a pair of tickets for tonight's game. Let's just start there, right? We're down to business here. We're getting down to brass tacks. At the end of this broadcast, we are giving away 2 tickets to tonight's play-in game. And Will Dawson has already thrown his name in the hat, as we expected. Fabio, great to see you. Mark Bird, got him. Grails. We're getting we're getting all kinds of people coming out for this one here today. So we'll give away a pair of tickets to tonight's monumental basketball game, Jake. The play-in game between the Magic and the Hawks. We're going to have it on TNT at 7:30. We're going to have it with this guy on the call, starting at 7 o'clock on 96.9 The Game, and he'll have the call on 96.9 The Game at 7:30. And we've got just a handful of tickets, I believe. Go to OrlandoMagic.com. They're moving fast. Whoa. We've got just a handful of tickets. I'm getting excited about this. Just a handful of tickets remaining for tonight's game on OrlandoMagic.com. So we need you in the building, Magic fans, and ready to go. So come on, you were at shoot-around. You were down there this morning. What's the feeling in the building for tonight's playing game?
First of all, shout out to Fabio. He is in Naples.
Ooh.
The far one, not Naples, not Naples, Florida. He's in Naples, Italy.
Naples, the far one. Yes,
far
I like
one.
that.
So we
yes.
appreciate you, Fabio, for tuning in.
Thank
Certainly,
you, Fabio.
we're not going to be able to give you the tickets, I don't think,
Correct,
because that's
correct.
a quick turnaround. I'm not sure you can make it
Yep.
to Central Florida in time. It was brass tacks. It was all business at Shoot-Around today.
Good.
Coach Mosley addressed the assembled media yesterday at practice, so I got a chance to speak with him for our pregame coaches interview, and that was it. Paolo and Cole Anthony spoke to the media. They were pretty quick. They said they're treating it, Paolo sort of harkened back to college, to that Final Four run he had with Duke, just sort of the idea of a one and done.
Okay, yes.
I mean, and we'll talk about this. Trae Young is very comfortable with a play-in scenario. It's not one and done, obviously. You have that reprieve in your back pocket.
Correct.
If you lose tonight, you'll play on Friday, and then it would be a one and done. I don't think anybody wants to get to that point. I think last year's experience with the Cavaliers certainly will be helpful for our guys, but this is a different animal. This is 48 minutes to claim the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. So there's a lot that goes into it. I think you probably sort of toe that line between the requisite sense of urgency and this is it right now, but you don't want to be over anxious. You don't want to press too much.
Right.
So it'll be interesting, sort of the mental makeup. It's when you get to this point of the year, the motivation is never an issue. But sometimes I think controlling your nerves and not pressing and sort of staying within yourself and playing your game can be a little bit difficult.
Well, and you got to look at how it breaks down during the season too. So I think there's a comfort level, right?
Yep.
You played them. The Sunday game didn't really matter, right?
Throw that one out.
A lot of guys were sleepwalking through that.
I don't think we'll see Keaton Wallace too much tonight.
Which we may, and we now know to be concerned about him after that triple double. We learned a lot about Keaton Wallace. And by the way, Fabio did say he'll come. So if that ticket is available,
Do we got a spring for the flight too?
Yeah, no. He's on his own for that. K-Nail, everybody. We appreciate you tuning into this one. It's a big one. It's a huge game here today. So you got to wipe out Sunday because that didn't matter. Nobody played. That's going to play in this game here tonight. So the other 3 games, the Magic won that series 2-1, and they were pretty evenly matched. In fact, they were exactly evenly matched after 2 games. Both teams scored 220 points. Both teams, which means both teams gave up 220 points.
Fair.
So in the first 2 games combined, and then the third game was the one that the Magic won here by 7. So that's the difference. It's a difference of 7 points between the first 3 games.
And
that's
the first
how
3
close
games
these
were, I think they were both 6-point margins either way, right?
Right, exactly.
So yeah.
So it was huge. So they're tightly contested. And Trae Young, and we talked about it yesterday, and I mentioned on the broadcast, FanDuel Sports Network, which we will not have. Unfortunately, we do not have that, no local telecast. So the only local broadcast will be with this guy, Jake Chapman, on 96.9 The Game. So you got to tune into that for sure. Trae Young is comfortable in these settings, right? The Magic have never been in a play-in game. The Hawks have had 4 play-in games. Trae Young is 3-1 in play-in scenarios, and he averages almost 28 points a game and 9 assists. So he's got a comfort level. There's something about him on this stage that he can kind of bring it to another level. He loves playing the villain. He loves being on the road. That being said, and this is what the Magic have gone over this is the 3rd time the Magic are playing them in 8 days, right? So there's a game plan in place. They know how they want to defend Trae Young. Multiple looks. You'll put size on him, right, with Franz Wagner. Trae Young is capable of beating all of that if he's just having a big offensive night. But hopefully you give yourself a chance with what you've been scheming up here the last couple of days, because it starts and stops with that guy.
Yeah. I think if you control him, I think there's even a path because the 2 wins earlier in the season, he had his best scoring games in the 2 games that we won. The one game that Atlanta won, he had 19 points. Now, he made shots down the stretch in that game.
Right.
I think there is a path to winning if he gets up over 30 points, as long as he doesn't have 30 points plus 12, 13 assists, right? Once he gets his teammates involved, you want to make him one-dimensional. Either he's distributing or he's scoring. You can't have him scoring and distributing because then you're in trouble. You got to obviously pick him up once he passes half court. He's one of the guys with Steph range. You got to make him feel you all night. I think deploying pressure on him might be a good idea. You want to run him off the three-point line. He's one guy that you don't mind if he gets closer to the bucket because you've got size and you should be able to defend the rim well against him.
You don't want him filling it up from deep. Yeah,
you certainly don't want him filling it up from deep. You don't want him living at the free throw line either. So there, it's kind of a pick your poison type situation with him. But you mentioned the size. Not only Franz Wagner, if you get caught while you're switching a whole bunch, you're talking about guys like KCP, you're talking about guys like Anthony Black off the bench. I feel pretty good about how we match up on paper with Trae Young and with Atlanta in general. I think making sure that we're not turning the ball over and letting them get out and get easy buckets is huge. Fast break points is going to be a huge key. We held them to 5 fast break points last Tuesday. That was a big key. And then you think about, AB, Gary, some of the guys who maybe deploy a little pressure, maybe make it difficult for Trae to get the ball up the floor, or maybe make him, throw a trap at him every once in a while, make him come off it, and somebody else is bringing it up, and now they're getting into their stuff a little bit later. A lot of different options, but obviously it all starts with Trae on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes, it does, and then it trickles down from there. But there are many capable players. You've got Karis LeVert, George Niang. These guys know what it takes, right? They've multiple playoff games under their belt. Dyson Daniels has emerged as one of the best defensive players in the NBA. He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he's going to be second or third. I mean, he's right there, right?
He's going to get my vote.
Yeah, and he may get it, and he absolutely may get it.
I think you're right,
There's a lot of talk of Draymond Green, and all there always is.
But Draymond's doing the one, all the talking about Draymond.
Well, I've actually seen others. I have, but you're right. Draymond is the biggest Draymond fan. Rudy Gobert always gets votes and all that. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays. Fabio asked, are we starting Kojo? And let's do this because it kind of lends to this. We're going to give away the 2 tickets for tonight, the Magic play-in game against Atlanta at 7:30 here at Kia Center. Who do you think should be the X factor? Who is the third guy? Who will be and who should be the third guy tonight, and I guess really even on into the playoffs for this Magic team to be successful, to get a win tonight and to keep it competitive and potentially upset Boston or Cleveland in the first round. So we'll kind of take your thoughts on that. But Kojo would be one of those guys, right, Fabio? I would imagine same starting lineup that we've seen the last 14, 15 games.
Yes.
Aside from Sunday, which we have all erased from our memories. But we would imagine it would be Corey Joseph, Wendell Carter Jr., KCP, and then Paolo and Franz. Now, Paolo and Franz have not played in 6 days, so I personally am curious to see how that's going to go. The start to the game, rest versus rust. So we'll see what kind of a rhythm they get into. But at the end of the day, Paolo and Franz are going to be 30 and 25, if not both 30. They're going to have big nights. We know that, especially potentially with Atlanta's defense. So they'll be primed and ready to go. But who's going to be that third guy? And Corey Joseph is one of those guys. He's held the fort down, Jake. He's 15 starts on the season. They're 10-5 with him as a starter. He started 14 consecutive games, and he's got 7 turnovers in 15 games as a starter.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Right? If you look at the number of starts that he has made and the number of minutes that he has played, he's fourth fewest turnovers in that 15-game stretch.
You go back to the idea of playing with pace but doing so under control, and Corey Joseph has been a master at all of that. And anytime we've got Franz or Paolo heading downhill, getting to their spots before defense is set, especially defense like Atlanta's that is kind of contingent on size, but they're not necessarily the most they don't have the best defensive team in the world. It's not where it's not their specialty. I think that's obviously going to be a big key, and Kojo could play a big role. As far as the X factors go, first and foremost, I think an X factor for the entire postseason is Jonathan Isaac. If we have J.I., he started game 82 last year. He started that Cavs playoff series last year. So did Gary Harris.
Yes, he did.
Markelle Fultz and Mo Wagner. Jalen Suggs was in the starting lineup. Markelle, Mo, Joe Ingles were your bench bunch. So like half the guys who played in that series last year are either injured or no longer here.
Yeah, you're right.
So so I do think that it's
Joe Ingles isn't walking through that door, folks.
Joe Ingles is not walking through that door. Unfortunately on one end and maybe fortunately on the other end of the floor. Look, if you go back to last Tuesday, the third man scoring-wise was a combination of Wendell and Kenny. I think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope because we know he's going to be on the floor for 36, 38 minutes.
Correct.
If he can be your third man, if he can make 3-4 threes, then I really like our chances. So offensively, we know what he's going to do defensively. I think offensively, if you need some spacers, you need somebody to knock down shots from the perimeter, and ideally it's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I think the X factor for tonight and moving forward.
He's got the experience, right? He's won 2 championships.
Absolutely.
He knows what it takes. He knows what these games are all about.
I don't think he's ever played in a play-in game.
He would not have.
Think about it.
No, he would not have.
Yeah. I don't think so. So I don't think that makes a huge difference. But for sure, he knows what it's about this time of year, and he's obviously been playing his best basketball offensively the last couple weeks. But, man, I just think Jonathan Isaac, if you can get him 20 to 25 minutes potentially, and we don't know. We haven't really seen that.
Right.
But it feels like he has been sort of building towards this all season long, trying to make sure his body was right, and he's ready to give you whatever you need come the postseason. And we just know that guy can absolutely, A, take advantage of opposing teams' benches, but B, if he is locked in defensively, if he's rebounding, if that's not an issue, if you don't need, Wendell or a whole bunch of size out there, he might close the game out as your 5, and he can just absolutely shut teams down in crunch time.
So that's your X factor, Jonathan Isaac, your biggest X factor going into this game and also the whole postseason, which is great. Let me say this: I love J.I.'s approach in that game on Sunday.
Yeah.
It was a quote-unquote meaningless game, right? There's never meaningless minutes because you're always trying to impress somebody. He took it as an opportunity to get ready for tonight's game and for the postseason. I thought that was phenomenal. And if nothing else, it reminded all of us that he's got that in there.
Yes.
Because I think it's kind of been a pace yourself to get through this
Exactly.
season and now ramp it up. We know what it takes for Jonathan Isaac here into the playoffs. So I think that's a great one. You see KCP from David Seibel, and he kind of lists a couple of guys. Listen, not only did he pick who he thought would be the third man, but he gave numbers, right? So what do you think about that, right? KCP will have 15-plus points. By the way, the Magic are 9-3 when he gets 15 or more in a basketball game. Kojo will show why he's a veteran leader. That's what we've seen. AB will have 20 points and 7 assists, and Wendell Carter Jr. will play lockdown defense.
Okay, he didn't really pick one X factor.
No, he didn't. Well,
Basically named everybody on the roster.
It's like seeing if the spaghetti's done, right? You throw a bunch of noodles on the wall, and if they stick, then you go with it.
Rome says that we need AB to be that X factor. When
Yes,
he's aggressive
okay.
at both ends, it leads to good things. It's really hard to argue with that.
Got him, Grails. KCP has also shown his playoffs ability within the last few games. So that's true, too. He's been as good as anybody here down the stretch the last couple weeks of the season. So, hey, this is – you don't want to be in the 7-8 game, but you see why the NBA did it, and it's unbelievable, the drama, the intrigue, the interest around the league and from sports fans. And, last year being the 5th seed, it was great. We didn't have to deal with it. But for those that were struggling to find a way to get in, the 9-10, Chicago and Miami, this is huge, and it's going to be great drama, and hopefully the Magic can pull out the victory here tonight against Atlanta. And so, again, you can go to OrlandoMagic.com. That's where you can get your tickets for tonight, OrlandoMagic.com. They're moving fast, and there's only a few left, so we want you to do that. And then also, Magic fans, secure your season tickets for next year and get guaranteed access to this year's playoffs. So that's another way that you can get in, right? So you can get tickets for next year and guaranteed playoff tickets for this year. Don't miss a second of high-flying dunks, clutch three-pointers, and all the postseason energy inside. Do you like those? Do you like kind of the verbiage on some of these? Right, all the high-flying. Well, how do we know there's going to be high-flying dunks and clutch three-pointers, right? I guess we're – and you know what else? You know what? I'll do this. I will do this. I will give you the tickets if anyone has an example of their IT department that does a dumber thing than we do here. Then every 6 weeks having to redo our password. And it shuts the whole thing down. And no matter where you log in, you're starting from scratch, like you've never seen a computer
Is this
before.
a bit?
So, no, I'm just throwing that. If you can give me an example of why we have to do that, then you can. I'll give you the tickets. I'll come up with tickets for you, so no problem. But if you want season tickets for next year, OrlandoMagic.com/season tickets, OrlandoMagic.com/season tickets. We'll be back with more Magic Insiders when we return in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. It is Magic Insiders presented by International Diamond Center. Dante Marchitelli, Jake Chapman, and we are primed and ready to go. Fired up. 7:30. will be the opening tip. The Magic and the Hawks, the winner moves on as a 7 seed, going to play the Boston Celtics. Loser gets another opportunity. I think that's important. I think most Magic fans understand that. But if you do lose, and we're obviously hoping that doesn't happen, you have another shot at it on Friday. We don't know the time. We don't know the opponent, because tomorrow will be Chicago against Miami. So the winner of that game will get the loser of tonight's game. But you can take all that out of the equation with a victory here tonight. 7 o'clock pregame on 96.9 The Game. Jake Chapman will have the call. No local telecast, so the game will be televised on TNT. But for the local broadcast, you got to listen to Jake Chapman.
And Jeff Turner.
And Jeff Turner, that's right, on 96.9 The Game. Brandon Kravitz will have the pregame show at 6:30. Let's get to our call of the game. It's brought to you by Glip from Ring Central. Rethink the way you work with secure meetings and messaging on any device with Glip by Ring Central. Visit glip.com to learn more. Okay, so I think we just continue this theme, and we're getting a lot of different people weighing in as far as that goes. But AB, KCP, that's our call of the game. Who is going to be and who needs to be the X factor, the third guy that steps up here tonight?
Well, first off, Will Dawson says, shout out to the Orlando Magic IT department keeping our team secure. And I second that, Will.
It is awesome. I'll give you that, but it drives me crazy.
Security is very
important. It drives me
important.
crazy, and does it have to be every 6 weeks? Can we move it to a couple, maybe during the summer?
Just keep it the same thing and add an exclamation point at the end. That's all you have to remember is, am I on 3 or 4 exclamation points after Goga 35?
Goga 35. You just don't know. So you know that. You just don't know how many
Just don't know how many exclamation
That's
points.
why we have to
that
keep
is security.
because you keep giving your password out to everybody. But here's the thing. Just do it every 5 or 6 weeks. I don't mind. I got 45 devices that I got to relog into every time I get on Wi-Fi.
I understand
Anyway, I would prefer to do it during the summer, but I digress.
All right.
Will Dawson.
Will Dawson may work in IT. He has leapt to the defense of our IT department. I'm guessing. I think those IT guys.
Will Dawson
together.
would step in front of a speeding train for 2 things: Jake and our IT department. Two things right in front of a speeding. There you go.
All right, there we go.
We now know his password. Eric Miller got his. Oh, well, I don't need everybody's passwords.
I wouldn't mind them.
I need is a more efficient way to do this.
If you could include your social security number, phone number, and home address, that'd be perfect. All right, KNail 300 says going to be a great game tonight. Hopefully, they will be there. We've got a pair of tickets to give out, and the question, as Dante reiterated, is who's going to be the X factor for this game tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. KCP will be the X factor. That's from David Sybil. Let's see. Who did you answer the question?
Here's
yours?
Who I think it's going to be. Okay, so you think it's Jonathan Isaac, and he very clearly has the ability to do that. I think Gary Harris can be an X factor with the way he's been shooting the ball of late. I don't know what kind of a role Caleb Houston is going to play here in the playoffs. We saw him play a big role down the stretch. I think 16 or 17 consecutive games, and that may continue. Rotations typically shorten here in the playoffs, and if you are shortening the rotations to 8 or 9 players, he could be the guy that's out, if we're being honest.
Right.
Goga Batadze could be a guy that's out. You don't know if he's played his way into the rotation, but I think that's a safe bet, especially with the lack of size for Atlanta and the fact that you need a backup center and not to put all those minutes on Jonathan Isaac. I think Goga's safe. To me, it's Anthony Black. To me, it's Anthony Black. He played 2 playoff games last year, a total of 11 minutes. That's all he played. Now he's made 3 field goals. I think he had 6 total points in those 11 minutes. But this is going to be brand new because when he got in, it was at the end of a game and there's no pressure. Right now, if they make it to the first round against Boston, you're going to step into a Sunday game. We now know game 1 is going to be Sunday, right? So you're going to step into a Sunday game about 5 minutes left in the first quarter, and you're in TD Garden in a meaningful minutes, and you're going to have an impact. And I think he's ready for that. That's my guess. The way how serious he took the last 3 weeks of the season, to me, was beyond impressive. And I think that guy has a chance to be your third guy.
It's a good call. We've seen him grow so much. And because of where he was drafted, I think Magic fans and even sometimes we're guilty of it. I think we nitpick at his game. And you know, when you're the 6th overall pick, you want it all to come together immediately.
Right.
He didn't play a ton in college, and he's still a baby in year 2. I think he's probably the right answer to the question because of his impact on both ends of the floor. And when we talk about Corey Joseph and what he's done in the starting lineup, a lot of games over the last couple of weeks since Kojo has been in the starting lineup, he hasn't closed the game out. AB's been in there,
true,
obviously
right,
for defensive purposes. But anytime AB is getting downhill, attacking, being aggressive, creating for his teammates and for himself. It's obviously a big development for this team. Let me ask you this. I'll just flip the script on you real quick, and we don't need to spend a ton of time on this. We talked so much about Trae Young. Who else?
What's my password?
No, I already know it. No, who makes you nervous beyond Trae?
gosh.
Like, who's a guy that you think, if Karis LeVert scores 25 points tonight, are we in trouble? I think he's probably my answer because he's a guy who's been around. You never quite know what you're going to get out of him. He could hit you for 30, and he could go 0 for 8. Where else do you think you need to be attentive defensively as far as Atlanta goes?
Well, I think from a defensive standpoint, I mean, George Niang makes shots. We saw that, and he scares the heck out of me. And Karis LeVert is just, it provides something that we don't have. That is instant offense off the bench and capable. He had 31 the other night, right, in their penultimate game of the season. Right? Did I use that properly?
Love that.
And their second, which I now found out means second to last.
Second to last.
So
and it's not even a more brief way to say it. It's actually almost, you could just say second to last, and everybody would understand.
It would be shorter still than saying penultimate. But so he proved that he's ready to go, right? He's ramping up for the playoffs. So he scares the heck out of me. To me, the biggest worry for Magic fans, and this should be, is beating ourselves in any capacity. And I think live ball turnovers in the open floor where Atlanta can get out and score could be, if Orlando loses, that's going to be because that's going to be the reason why, and it's going to be because of Dyson Daniels. And so to me, that guy scares the heck out of me. He has active hands. He's getting deflections. He does it. He disrupts what you want to do on the offensive end. So if you're crisp and take care of the basketball, you're golden. You're fine. If that guy is not a factor tonight, then I think you got a great chance. If he's getting steals and they're getting out and scoring in transition, that's what concerns me.
Yep.
I think he's a guy that could be a major disruptor here tonight.
I think it's
protect the basketball.
I think you're right, exactly. Like, and somebody mentioned Terrence Mann. He's another guy who can recap. I love Terrence Mann. I think 29 other head coaches would take him on their team.
Well, they're
he
loaded
rebounds
with
for
they
his
are
size.
Loaded offensively.
Yeah, they are. But I think you're right. I think the big key, because I think, like I said before, I think we can win depending on how Trae plays. Obviously, we need to limit him, and that's where all your defensive attention is paid. But I think the big key, like, we're really, really in trouble if they're getting out in the break, and the best way for them to do that is if we turn the ball over. Since Corey Joseph has been in the starting lineup, we've been better. We're still not great, but we've been better at protecting the basketball. I think it's just calmed things down. And Powell and Franz right now, it feels like they're not guessing. They know where they are on the floor. They know what they're running. They know where their teammates are going to be. I think everything has just sort of settled down the last few weeks offensively for us, and that is the big key. We need to execute offensively and not give them anything easy.
I think that's huge, and that you worry about yourself, and you hope that it's good enough at the end of the day. You make enough shots, and defensively, it was 119 to 112 the other night when they won here in Orlando. That was a team that was averaging 124 points a game. The previous 10, you held them to 112.
Yep.
Are you going to be able to score 112 in a playoff game? That's the other thing. It's going to slow down. You're not going to get out in transition as much. That's why I think Corey Joseph has a chance to be a huge X factor as well, but he's so solid. It's not going to be like an 18 points, 10 assists. If he does, you're going to win going away.
Yeah.
But he's out there just to steady the ship and get other guys involved.
12 points, 6 assists, no turnover, something like that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Which is why we're here, quite honestly. The reason we're here and have 7th and won 41 games is because of Corey Joseph. I don't think we're in this position if it's not for what he did. So you've got a lot. You've certainly got a lot of factors. And I like this from Rome. Please don't let Okongwu hit 4 threes again. Can we not do that? I think he had 30 and 14.
Yeah.
In the last meeting. So he listen. Atlanta's a good team. And they have so much offensive firepower that if it comes together, they put up 147 a couple of weeks ago, right? They are capable of having big offensive nights, as is Chicago, as is Miami. But I think the way we defend, you would hope that that's not the case, the way they defend. Hey, real quick before we get out of here, very unfortunate, Jake. What a season by the Osceola Magic. Up by 15 in the third quarter. Unfortunately, a 14-0 run by the Stockton Kings to start the fourth, and they never looked back after that. But it shouldn't take – I know some guys had off nights, but it shouldn't take away from what Mac McClung, Ethan Thompson, Myron Gardner, Dylan Murphy, that entire group accomplished in Osceola, getting all the way to Game 3 of the G League Championship.
Yeah, Jared Culver. It was a great season. You come up just a little bit short. It was obviously heartbreaking fashion because I felt like you were in control of that game until late. And that's sort of the nature of the G League. That is a game of runs. It doesn't matter if it's the fourth quarter of Game 3 of the G League Finals. You got guys knocking down shots left and right, and basically the Stockton Kings caught a heater last.
They did.
That was all,
They
that
did.
was what it came down to. But certainly doesn't spoil at all a great season and a great run from the boys down at Osceola, and we'll get them next year.
Okay, so now we got to give away these tickets for tonight, okay? So we got a couple of options, right? Kay Nail said congratulations to Osceola. David Seibel had some good questions. Us not beating ourselves is an X factor. I like this from Luis Rosario. In 92-93, the Magic went 41-41, which is our record right now. 2 years later, we're in the NBA Finals. Could we be on a similar trajectory here right now, right? 41-41. Maybe next year you get somewhere in the playoffs. In 2 years, you're in the NBA. That's very interesting.
I believe right around that time period was the last time we had two players who finished the season with better
Yes,
than
it was.
20-point per game scoring averages.
Exactly
as well.
those years, right? Shaq and Penny. So you have that. CJ with some good stuff as well. Always Will Dawson, but you already got a ticket. Brandon Ross as well. So you've got some options. And Rome, who lives in Rome, is not an option. So what do we got? Who do we like for 2 tickets to tonight's game, the Magic and the Hawks playing?
Okay, so the original question was, who is going to be the X factor? Oh, Dante, you put me on the spot here. You put me. Let's just, you know what? I like that. I'm just going to go recently. I like that note from Luis Rosario.
Okay, you like that.
Don't you, Luis? Do you want tickets? Would you like to come to the game tonight? Please let us know.
And are you in Rome? If you're not in Rome, you
you-
can come. And if you're here, you can come.
Are you
We'd love to
stateside?
We'd love to send you to the game. And then David Seibel, the team, needs me to lose my voice again tonight, and he is capable of that. So we'll go with that. David, you're on the clock if Lewis is not in town. Okay. So we will send you, David. So Lewis, make sure you reach out to us on our social media platforms, and we'll try to catch you as well. But other than that, Jake, hey, let's close this thing out here tonight. Let's grab a victory, and then if you can win this one tonight in front of a raucous crowd, Luis Rosario is here, so he'll reach out. Awesome, great. So we appreciate everybody.
And Will's accusing me of recency bias.
And you are a big recency bias guy,
Yeah,
though.
I am.
You are.
I don't want to go scrolling through and
It's lazy.
randomly.
It really
It's
is
just
lazy.
laziness.
It's
That's
laziness
exactly what it is.
is what it is.
Yeah.
And Kay Nail said congratulations, Lewis, and didn't even spell it remotely accurately. So I like that too. So it's the attention to detail that we really appreciate here as well. So congratulations, David. We'll try to get you out there, hopefully in the playoffs, right? We'll do this again here. We'll have Magic Insiders next week, and we'll try to send someone to the first round, hopefully in the playoffs against the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Lewis, always pay attention. What do I do to get the tickets? Well, you reach out to us on social media, right? At Dante Magic, or you can
Jake
find
Chapman OM.
Jake Chapman OM, and we'll get it taken care of from there.
On Twitter.
But let's get this. And if you win tonight, you are off until Sunday. That is enormous for this group. Even though our
This group also.
2 main guys just had 6 days off. They're going to be off again for another 6 days to get ready for the playoffs. So that is a huge amount of rest as we gear up for the Boston Celtics. But it doesn't matter if you don't get this one tonight. So you can tune in at 7 o'clock, 96.9 The Game, and we'll talk to you next week on Magic Insiders and on the radio tomorrow at 3 o'clock.